Welcome back to Magoo's Breeze. Hope everybody's having a blessed day. So this is my review for the McMahon show, Netflix, the Netflix series, episode 1 titled Junior. Before I get into my review, I'm just gonna say it out the gate, man. Growing up, wrestling was always a big part of my household. Even to this day, I still watch wrestling. Not as much as I used to when I was younger, but I'm in the know. You know what I mean? I still pop my head from hearing it time and time again because always just on the love of it. Always just the love of that. From my childhood. I remember growing up watching Hogan, seeing Macho Man, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Rock, so on and so forth, man. It always had a special place in my heart. And to this day, man, watching this Netflix show, like, all right, I'm just gonna set the tone off, man. Like, you see Miss McMahon in there, you see Linda, you see Stephanie, you see Shane, all of them in there. Eric Bischoff, from Stone Cold, The Rock, Bret Hart, Undertaker, Hulk Hogan. Everybody just takes this big old sigh, like, it's like, oh shoot, here we go. Especially like if the last couple of years, man, the whole allegations with Vince McMahon and everything, his whole situation that happened with him. Now, here's the interesting part. I didn't know about this as they were filming it. They said then the allegations came down of what happened with him. I was like, oh shoot. So while they were filming this, then it happened. And I think, me personally, man, Hulk Hogan said the best out of everybody in this whole episode. He's like, do I know Vince McMahon? Like, I don't think anybody knows Vince McMahon. Because like Triple H even said it best. Like, Vince shows you who he wants. He doesn't really let you know who he is and everything like that. Vince is a character in himself. You know what I mean? Think about it, man. Like Vince McMahon, his father, Vince Sr., of course, he had WWE and everything like that. But Vince McMahon Jr. was the one who really took it to another level. He really took WWE to another level, man. And I think another thing, growing up is like, not growing up, but watching this series, like, it was stuff that I knew, previously. Like, I knew about the different territories and how Vince was, think about it, man. Vince McMahon was Thanos before he was ever portrayed in the movies. The way he took over those territories and everything like that, and taking the talent from the different territories, it showed like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Andre the Giant, was it Greg Valentine? It was a bunch of these guys, man. So it was like a refresher, if anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you already took a class, you knew about the knobs, but then just looking at it over again, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now I remember this and stuff like that. Paul Heyman spoke in there, Eric Bischoff spoke in there. And to me, man, I think one of the things that really stuck out to me, and I've heard it before, was Vince's whole relationship with his father. Vince McMahon growing up, Vince Jr., he grew up with his mom and his stepfather. You know what I mean? He said his stepfather was really abusive. He's like, it was one of those situations where it's, you just dealt with it until you got away. He said until he saw his father. He said he ran up to his dad, he was expecting a big old hug, and just kind of gave him a pat. He was like, oh, wow, that felt different. But he was just, you could tell that Vince really wanted a relationship with his father. I think that's the main thing, man. You can have all the money in the world and stuff like that, but a parent's love is something that, even as an adult, for a lot of adults out there, man, like, that's something that really every child, every person wants, that love and care from their parents. You know what I mean? Even Vince said it, like, the only thing we really talked about was business and stuff like that. He says we never had that conversation of why he was away, why he wasn't around. And you could tell, like, he wanted that conversation. Like, he wanted that even as an adult. Like, you're like, yeah, why he wasn't around, And I think even in, not to jump too far ahead, because I actually want to stick to this as much as I can, but towards the end of the episode, Vince also stated that, I'm like, man, when he told me, like, he's proud of me, he's like, man, he pounded on his chest like, that meant everything. You know what I mean? He's like, he said that was one of the best moments of my life, hearing him say that. And I'm like, yo, this is Vince McMahon. This is one of the most popular figures, in America, you know what I mean? As far as, like, business moguls. For him to say that, like, it really just goes to show, man, at the end of the day, man, we're all human. We're all human at the end of the day. And I think that, like I said, it wasn't nothing that really blew me out the way. Like, oh, I didn't know that. But at the same time, it's just like, just that refresher in my head, like, dang. Yeah, Vince really did want that acknowledgement. He wanted, his father's love at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? I think that every son does. So, yeah, man, just starting out, man, you see Hogan and everybody speaking. I think one of the things I really do love is that, and the importance of it, and I think, was it Paul Heyman who said it? I can't remember exactly who said it. Paul Heyman or Tony Atlas. One of them said it. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I am. But that Vince was somebody who really rode the wave. He truly did. He saw where the wave was going. He paid attention to certain things, like in the 80s and stuff like that. Like they said, Americana, stuff like that was really popping. And then how you see, like, it was the Russians are the bad guys, or, the Japanese are the bad guys, or the Iranians are the bad guys. And he played into that, into his business, and stuff like that. They showing clips of Rocky IV, you know what I'm saying? Back to the Future and stuff like that. G.I. Joe was really big on TV. G.I. Joe, American hero. So all that stuff was extremely important to the time of how professional wrestling really did blow up. You know, even stuff like MTV. MTV, like, you know, of course, MTV in the 80s with Nat Bop and everything like that, and how they used Cyndi Lauper, how they brought her into professional wrestling. I mean, one thing about Vince, man, I know everything that happened, but as a businessman, oh my God, he's the man is absolutely a genius in my personal opinion, because he really saw the wave. He paid attention to what was going on. You know, even I think he said later on in the episode that Linda, you know, his wife Linda McMahon, she told him, man, just go on a vacation, just get away. He said he wanted a vacation, but that's when he kind of came up with the idea of WrestleMania. She's like, well, you think about wrestling the whole time, you know, but that's where WrestleMania came from. You know, his mind was just always on business and, you know, how to evolve. But at the same time, he always looked at it as, you know, sports entertainment. You know, from like, you know, being on David Letterman and like I said, in the WrestleMania, you know, bringing WrestleMania was such a huge gamble. It really was. Like I said, this is stuff I knew before, but at the same time, it's always a good refresher. You know what I mean? Just to really see like the backstage politics of wrestling and how it evolved to what it is today. You know what I mean? Days like WrestleMania was such a huge gamble. Like you had Cyndi Lauper, you know, Muhammad Ali, Liberace and stuff like that. I mean, just these big name stars and stuff like that, just bringing it into professional wrestling. It just made it to what it was. And I think that really goes to the genius of him. And like, I think Tony Atlas said it himself. He was like, we kind of looked at Vince like, man, these crazy ideas. Like he said, some of the guys in the locker room, like a lot of them were really against it, you know, man. But I think for Vince to have that vision and to continue on really did make wrestling what it is today, you know, sports entertainment. Wrestling today, I mean, if you look at, all right, let's keep it a buck, man. If you look at WrestleMania 1, I know it's, you know, the times are different, but if you look at WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania now, oh my gosh, bro. WrestleMania is selling out stadiums, arenas, man. Like WrestleMania is huge. It is the Super Bowl. And like his vision of making wrestling, you know, what it was today, like just look at it, man. I mean, just look at just the ring entrance and the ring walks. It's absolutely amazing. Like I remember watching WrestleMania growing up, still do. You know, I watched it this past year and it just blows my mind every time. Like, wow. Like, just look at what it is today. And, man, like you said, going back to, you know, Vince's vision and everything like that, and how he was like, at one point, his father had Bob Backlund. You know, he was the actual champion of the WWE at the time, WWF, now WWE. But how he was like, you know, he kind of wanted, you know, to get the belt on Hogan, because Hogan was there. He left to do Rocky III. Then they see how big Hogan is and everything now. You know, Hulk Hogan really did have a big part in this episode, especially the beginning of wrestling. And speaking of stuff like that. Oh, yeah. Side note before I continue. Jimmy Hart has not aged, bro. I'm looking at Jimmy Hart like, yo, this man hasn't aged since the 80s, though. He looks exactly the same. It's absolutely funny to me. Jimmy Hart. The mouth of the South, baby. Hey, Jimmy Hart's still doing this thing, man. It's absolutely funny to me just to see Jimmy Hart. He looks exactly the same. Getting back to it, man. But Hulk Hogan, Vince wanted Hogan to be that, you know, to be that figure, to be his champion and stuff like that, man. And how they took the Iron Sheik, like I said, going back to the whole, you know, the Iranians are the bad guys, the Japanese, the Russians are the bad guys, just really placating to that time in history, you know, and how he used Sheik to beat Backlund, but then to get the belt on a Hogan, man, to which really blew up, like saying Madison Square Garden when Hogan won the belt and everything like that. So Vince was extremely smart as a businessman. That's another thing about, it doesn't irritate me, but people say professional wrestling is fake. Now, professional wrestling is scripted as far as, all right, you're going to go over tonight or she's going to go over tonight. You know what I mean? But those bumps those guys and those women take in that ring, that's not fake. Those bumps they take is serious, man. They get some serious injuries from a lot of those bumps, man. A lot of those people, if you look at wrestlers even today and how they go to these different signings and stuff like that, man, a lot of them walking with limps. A lot of them have, you know, permanent injuries that's always going to stick with them for the rest of their life. So professional wrestling is not fake, especially when it comes to those bumps, man. Like, those people in those rings are actually professional athletes that they put their bodies on the line. Because like I said, professional wrestling, man, like it's different today as far as them having a lot more days off, but there really is no off season. In the NFL, you got an off season. Baseball, you got an off season. Basketball, you got an off season. Professional wrestling, those guys, you know, and those women there, they don't have an off season at all. So yeah, I mean, that was just another thing, man. I just really wanted to harp on, but it really was good to see how, like, the beginning, how it all worked out. You know what I mean? I think that was another thing. Another thing that Vince said that was really important was that, you know, the ideals and the values of yesterday and today are completely different. You know what I mean? So that really did go to show to me that he was a person that really did ride the wave. You know what I mean? He rode the wave and he was a smart businessman. You know what I mean? Now I'm going to see how the later episodes are. I'm definitely going to have reviews up for him for you guys. But me saying it just from this first episode, I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. Again, it says, it was stuff that I already knew previously, but it's always good to see. It's always good to go back. You know what I mean? Hey, man, like, it's just absolutely funny. Now, like, Bret Hart spoke a lot in here. Like I said, Hogan spoke a lot in here. It was very good. It was very good. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really looking forward to the next episodes and seeing how it evolves. Because, like I said, the 80s is different from the early 90s. And the early 90s is completely different from the late 90s. 90s to the 2000s, man. And so one thing about wrestling is that it's always evolved with the times. You know what I mean? For better or for worse. At the same time, they always have those bumps. But it just goes to show me personally, this episode, Vince McMahon was Thanos. He really was Thanos. He did not care about coming in your hood and stepping with his flag. He was gonna come in your hood and step with his flag, and he didn't care what you were gonna do because he's like, at the end of the day, I'm gonna win. I think that just goes to show he was like, his mindset, like, yo, this is Americana, this is America. Like that was his whole his mentality. Like, this is America. You can't deal with it. Oh well, So I'm looking forward to the next couple episodes, and I'll have a review for you guys. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment in the comment section. Hope everybody has a blessed day. I'll see you guys soon.